right, we found someone doing something in Congress. Wanted to share it with you guys. Joining us is Joseph Geevarghese. He is the executive director of Our Revolution. That's the group Bernie set up after his first run, and he's working with 3 Congress people to try to get something done. So Joseph, welcome back to the show, brother.
Hey, Cenk, good to be with you in the TYT community.
All right, wonderful. So you guys are working with Rashida Tlaib, Jayapal, and Delia Ramirez. So tell me what you guys are working on.
So the core thing that we're focused on is defunding the oligarchs. And just by way of background, Cenk, Donald Trump and the MAGA movement returned to power on a promise. They were going to drain the swamp. They were going to fight for America's forgotten men and women, the working people of America. But we're 1 year later, we're seeing the results. Donald Trump has turned the White House into an ATM. He is spewing out money for his billionaire donors and for his own family. And instead of fighting for the regular everyday people that he promised to fight for. And as we head into the State of the Union next week, the truth is the State of the Union is good if you're an oligarch, if you're one of those billionaire donors that's benefiting from Donald Trump's regime, not for everyday Americans. And let me share with you just a couple of the research points that we dug up since Trump has gotten into power. And it really illustrates the level of political corruption that is poisoning our system. Let me start with fossil fuel executives. They spent over $400 million to elect Donald Trump. What did they get in return? Over $153 billion in tax breaks and subsidies. That's a 34,000% return on their political investment. Let's take the AI oligarchs. They spent over $70 million electing Donald Trump and MAGA candidates. Since Donald Trump got into office and decided to deregulate AI, these AI oligarchs have seen their net worth skyrocket by $500 billion. That's a 700,000% return on investment. Another sector of the economy, the deportation industry. They invested, these are companies like Core Civic, Geo Group, CSI Aviation. They're involved deeply in all the anti-immigrant activities we're seeing around the country. They spent $5 million to elect Donald Trump and MAGA candidates. Now they're getting $5 billion a year in contracts with Homeland Security and ICE. And last but not least, the Trump family itself. Over the course of last year, they've seen their net worth go from right around $2 billion to almost $7 billion. That's a $5 billion increase in just 1 year. I don't know about you, Cenk, but my modest 401k portfolio doesn't see returns like this. This is oligarchy. It's what oligarchy looks like. And, we saw it a year ago at the Rotunda when Donald Trump surrounded himself with the titans of industry and took the oath of office. And what he was taking an oath to was fighting for the enriching the richest in our society. And so let's talk about the legislation. We've got Rashida Tlaib, Pramila Jayapal, Summer Lee, Delia Ramirez, and several others, members of Congress, who are introducing legislation to defund the oligarchs, fund the people. And there's a core principle here, and this is really about restructuring our political economy to make sure that it works for regular people and not for the rich. And what the resolution does, it lays out a series of transformational items that we want our elected officials to fight for. That includes stopping contracts, loans, and grants from going to political donors. It includes breaking up monopolies in different sectors of the economy. It includes higher levels of taxation of the rich and of industries controlled by the billionaires, and includes strengthening worker power. But what we're talking about with this legislation and with the research is exposing the corruption, but ultimately trying to fix it and making sure that we don't go back to business as normal when Democrats win an election, whether it's in 2026 or 2028 or beyond.
Yeah. So first, quick question, and then I get to the more substantive stuff. So first, to the audience, like, if you're wondering why the top executives were all like fawning over Donald Trump, Tim Cook, Jeff Bezos, etc. I mean, Joe just told you they literally made billions and billions off of Trump getting into office, and directly through corruption, subsidies and other things that they received. So if you're going to get a couple of $1 billion, you might kiss his ass too. I mean, I hope you wouldn't, but that's kind of the business they're in. So, but what I wanted to ask you quickly is there a place where people can see those stats? Because you mentioned some amazing stats there. If you guys did like an anti-Doge site, all the money you could save, that would be kind of pretty neat if we got rid of corporate subsidies.
We do have a website, Cenk. You can go to ourrevolution.com and folks can go to the Fight Oligarchy section or the Defund Oligarchy section, and you can see the research reports. And we also have videos that are quite entertaining that really do tell the story of what's happened in our political economy over the last year.
Okay, I genuinely didn't, I knew you guys had a website, but I didn't know that you had set it up with that. So that was a nice softball for you. Okay, so now let's talk about the specifics. So is this a series of bills? And if the Democrats win the House, will these bills be introduced?
Well, it is our hope. We're getting commitments, and we have to make sure that we elect enough progressives and create a powerful progressive bloc that has influence within Congress to pass this. And I think it's not going to be just one piece of legislation. It's going to have to be a series of legislations that address all of the different aspects of our political economy that are broken, right? We need to address labor law. We need to address antitrust. We need to address the fact that, someone like Elon Musk, it's totally legal for Elon Musk to give hundreds of millions of dollars to elect a candidate and then to try to take departments under his control. For example, he wants NASA to be a subsidiary of SpaceX, just like Jeff Bezos wants Amazon Web Services to be a subsidiary, or wants the back end of the U.S. government to be to do business on Amazon Web Services. It's all perfectly legal right now, and so we need to make it illegal, and then we also have to do other things to fix all of the sectors of the economy that ultimately are broken, from labor law to antitrust.
So the bills are not written yet. This is a commitment to push bills like this. Am I understanding that right?
That's right. Okay. And it's a set of principles. It's more than it's basically laying out, this is what we have to do to live in the world that we want to live in. At the end of the day, we've done recent polling, Cenk, of our base. Usually over the past several years, when I ask our base, what are your top issues? They're like Medicare for all, Green New Deal, good jobs, union wages. That's changed since Donald Trump came into office. People have started to say, you know what, we need to fight the oligarchy. We need to dismantle the billionaire class and get dark money out of politics. And only after that was there universal health care and climate action and good union jobs. And what that says to me is people get it. They get that the system is so rotten, that the the system, the political system, is captured by these oligarchs. That even if we want to accomplish, the things that we want, we've got some work to do, and that's what we're putting out is a plan. This is the work that needs to happen to get us to the progressive world that we want to live in.
Well, it's funny you mention that, because that's going to lead to my skepticism that you're going to have to deal with in a second. So keeping it real, but I love that the people figured that out before Washington did, before the press did. What you found out from your base is exactly right. And so that leads me to ask the question I was going to ask anyway, but it's a great setup for it. Look, honestly, we could put together great proposals and great bills, but is it going to make a difference? Because forget the Republicans, I don't think most of the Democrats are on our side. So how do we tackle this issue? Because we're really not going to get any of these bills until we figure out a way to neutralize or defeat or come to some sort of agreement. I don't know how we could ever get to an agreement with the corporate Democrats. I mean, just to give you one small example, and you know all this, Mark Warner today was interviewed and talking about how the real problem was Donald Trump didn't attack Iran earlier. I mean, how with Democrats like that, how are you going to pass any bill that's decent for the American people?
Yeah, look, you hit the nail on the head, Cenk. The fundamental problem is we've got a Democratic Party that's bought and paid for by the corporate class. The same corporate class that's subsidizing Donald Trump is paying for the Democratic lackeys who are carrying water for the corporate class. And so, look, this is a fight. It's not, it's not something that's going to get done in one election or two elections. We're going to have to get into a knockdown, drag out fight within the party about what we stand for and who we stand with. And part of what we're trying to do with this resolution is draw a line and say that, a real people's party cannot be complicit with these corporations, cannot be setting up a legal regime and a government that perpetuates the richest among us. And that's the line that we have to draw. And look, what we're calling for here at the end of the day, Cenk, and what gives me hope, I'm cynical like you are, but what gives me hope is there was a New Deal, there was a Roosevelt, there were political figures who fought like hell to create massive realignments. And it wasn't just the politicians. It was, as Roosevelt passed labor law reform, as he fought to break up the monopolies, as he restructured our economy, there were masses of workers in the street protesting and putting pressure on politicians and the corporate class. And that's ultimately what we need in order to see political change. Cenk, it's not going to happen tomorrow, but I think we're closer now than we ever have been, given what's coming out of this White House and given the atrocities we're seeing from the GOP Congress and from the agencies of the United States government.
So look, I was happy to see that these Congress people are working with you guys, because it's nearly impossible to get Congress people to do anything, honestly, including our people. So I only see one real fighter in there, that's Ro Khanna. So that leads me to the question, not about these people, but in general, progressives in Congress, are they, you deal with them more often these days than I do. Are they ready for an internal fight? Because I don't see that. I mean, all progressives in Congress have ever done is lay down for the establishment. I've never seen them fight them. Bernie does a little bit around the edges, Ro does these days, but when they win Congress, are you sure they're gonna actually fight the corporate Democrats?
It's gonna be up to us to make it. It's gonna be up to people-powered movements to call the question. And look, again, we did recently elect Zoran Mandami. That's exciting.
Yeah.
We have a socialist leading a major jurisdiction in this country. So, it looks hard, but I think we can beat the establishment. But we've got to, think
No,
outside the
but
box.
Joe, I'm asking a more specific question. Sorry to interrupt. Sure. But like, I hear you, but I don't know how much you could reveal, but like, I'm not asking whether we could win. If we fight, we win, right? All we got to do is get a spotlight on it. Once you have a national conversation around it, nobody likes corruption. Everybody hates corruption. And so they'll hate the politicians who are corrupt, including the Democrats. But that is why historically progressives in Congress have neutered themselves and submitted to the will of the establishment Democrats. So are you getting any different sense these days in Washington that they're willing to fight back against their supposed colleagues? Because I'm not getting that sense, if I'm being honest.
I do sense that there are more progressives, elected progressives, who understand that some of their colleagues are part of the problem and are encouraging people to step up and run against them. So I'm encouraged. Is that the entire progressive caucus? Not necessarily. But I think we've got more people who are waking up, and joining the Ro Khannas and the Bernie Sanders in this fight. But yeah, as you said, Cenk, I share your skepticism. This is not an easy fight. But at the end of the day, I think politicians will put their finger in the wind, and they're going to follow where the people lead. And we need some strong leaders in Congress, but we also need a lot of people on the streets who are articulating a transformational message.
Yeah. All right. One last thing, Joe. And you don't speak for them, and you're a good guy trying to push them in the right direction, and I appreciate you. It's just that I when I talk to people who are in politics, I want to get a sense of what's going on the ground. So, do we have a sense that people have, like, is this some of the bills like stop the bombs and stuff? Is that like games and semantics, or are people actually willing to cut all funding to Israel? Because I think that like right now the base would be furious if our legislators gave a single dollar to Israel, and none of this offensive defensive BS. No, not a single dollar. Do you think that that's gotten through to them yet, or no? They're still miles from that.
I think it's gone through to a lot more people than you would have thought. I think, and that's because of the organizing of students. It's because of progressive leaders speaking out on this issue. I think there's a lot more understanding of the horrors that happened in Gaza and what Donald Trump is trying to do. I think there is a greater understanding. Do we have what we need? Not yet, but I think we're closer. And I want to just add, one of the things increasingly that we're seeing on the campaign side is that AIPAC money is becoming toxic. And more elected officials who are running for office are willing to say they don't want AIPAC money. They don't want to be touched by any of the front groups. And we have candidates willing to take a stand on that. And that's one of the litmus tests that we screen our endorsed candidates for, is to make sure that they're not taking money from these interests that are against what we stand for.
Yeah, no, I love that you guys are doing that, because our litmus test back in the day when we started Just Democrats, and today in Rebellion PAC, is no corporate PAC money. And so the reason for no corporate PAC money is because we want to make sure you're not working for ExxonMobil or Raytheon, you're working for us. Same thing is true of AIPAC. We want to make sure you're working for the American people, not the Israeli government. That's the bare minimum that we can ask of you. And at this point, obviously, like, AIPAC is just flat out evil. And so if you're taking evil money from people who are massively pro-genocide, then you're not a Democrat, you're a liar and you're a fraud. And so that's how I feel about it.
Complicit in the atrocity, that's right.
Yeah. All right, Joseph Givargis, he's the executive director of Our Revolution. Website's ourrevolution.com. It has those amazing stats that you saw there. And they're actually trying to get something done, and they're trying to organize legislators to do it, which is taking real action. And I love that they're doing that. Thank you so much for fighting the good fight and joining us. Really appreciate it, Joe.
Thanks, Cenk, and thanks to the TYT community.
All right, appreciate you. All right, guys, that's all we got for you today. Tomorrow, you want to talk about a power panel? Casper joins us on Friday. And we're gonna do that story about how AIPAC is now dispersing their funds to try to hide that it's them. So we'll tell you all about that on tomorrow's show. All right, we'll see you there.